So could this be the mid-cap evolved to its final form? We'll find out in this episode of the Gear Guide. So if you guys have been following Airsoft for a while, especially the high-end stuff, you know who PTS is, or Professional Training and Simulation. These are the guys behind the Magpul licensing brand and the PMags, as well as a lot of other licensing out there in the market. But unfortunately, the Magpuls pulled back their licensing from Airsoft altogether to do everything in-house. And with that went probably one of the best magazines out there in the market for your AG when it comes to mid-caps, the PMag. Well, fear not, PTS has been hard at work since that change and used that experience building a solid magazine into something brand new. And they're calling it the EPM, or the Enhanced Polymer Magazine. Now I know what you're thinking, you're going, great Jonathan, a whole review video on a magazine. How can a magazine be any different? Does it feed good? Great. Does it hold BBs? Fantastic. Okay, we're done. You don't need to watch this video. Well, not true, because there are some features inside of this that you've never seen before in any Airsoft magazine to date. They've really stepped it up. But first, we're gonna look externally what they've done before we get to the guts. Starting off, design-wise, they got a lot of input from airsofters and, from what I hear, actually some real-world operators that do some cross-training to put all the great features into this magazine, since there's not a real version of this out there that they went to actually do a one-to-one replica of. So starting with it, first you see the gold bullets on the one side. Well, fear not, it's actually on both sides. That's a great cosmetic touch, but it is, again, just for looks. When it comes to functionality though, they've added a little bit of extra textured ribbing here in the back and the front so you can get a good positive grip if your hands are a little sweaty or you're using gloves under stress to get that mag out or into your gun. And speaking of fitment into your guns, they've added this rib up here that allows it to work in a lot of different guns and reduce the wobble that you'll find on some mid caps, especially when you look at this like in a 416, like an HK 416, or some of the other guns like Magpul Masadas or the ACRs, things like that. You'll commonly get some wobble. Well, this rib here works and keeps that from happening, but it still fits and feeds in quite a few guns. We actually tested it in our 4CRS, our 4CRL, and a classic Army gun, and we had no problems getting this thing to feed flawlessly. Moving down to the bottom, the plate. Instead of going with like your traditional Ranger plate, they went with their own design. It has two features that make it really unique. First is this little rubber hump, and the plate actually is rubber coated. So one, it gives you a good index on the magazine so you know which way's front, which way's back, especially in dark or low light situations. But it also gives you a bumper to set your rifle on when you're shooting. So it acts as a little mini bipod or monopod, which is a nice bonus touch. And with that rubber there, it allows your rifle to dig in and not slip and slide around. And then also on the bottom, you'll notice a little grid. I've got one little dot on here right now. You can actually use this to put a letter or a number to designate your call sign, so you can denote your magazine from anybody else's, which is another great touch. Or you can color code this, use different weight BBs, so you can immediately know what weight BB you're running in your magazine. And moving to the top, they've added these lips. The lips you'll normally find on real AR magazines, again, just to give you that feel and like positive, like tactile feedback when you're grabbing your mag and you're not looking at it. So you immediately can know, hey, this is the top, this is the back of the top, and this is the bottom. All those are little fine details that normally wouldn't matter, but if you're doing any kind of training or a lot of milsim events, these are great touches to have on a mid cap. But there's a functionality change too, which is the big news on the EPM. If you look here, the follower is orange. It's like this blaze orange color, and that lets you know immediately when you look down, hey, you know what, my magazine is empty. Especially if you're working again in those stressful situations, you can look right down and see that orange, hey, guess what, mag is empty, and you know you need to get a fresh one. And let me tell you what, this thing feeds every single one of its 150 rounds out. I was pulling this mag out. We actually took it at Broken Home 3. It's the first time I had a chance to use it. And I was dumping all 150 rounds semi-auto, and I pull it out, look, see orange. I knew I didn't have any extra rounds in there, and I knew it was time for a new mag change. But when it was time to fill it up back in the safe zone, below the gold bullets here, there's a tiny little window, and you can actually see this follower spring in there. When you go to fill this magazine all the way up, if you're watching, the orange follower for the BBs right here will work its way through, and you'll see it turn orange. It actually shows up down here. That lets you know the magazine is full. So they've really put a lot of thought and a lot of effort into making this a fantastic magazine for airsofters. So in my hands here is the final version. I'm a huge fan of this magazine. There's not much I can say really negative about it. Price point I think is gonna be right at or a little under 30 bucks. Don't quote me on that. As soon as it's up and live, I'll have a link for you guys here in the description of where to go pick them up and the exact price. But if you guys are looking for a fantastic magazine that fits and feeds flawlessly in most every AEG out there and has these great features, I mean, that right there, full or empty, be able to look at your mag and know, hey, this is the full one, this is an empty one, is worth the price of admission for sure. Check out the EPM, the Enhanced Polymer Magazine from PTS, and you can get it anywhere PTS products are sold. So I have to ask you guys, what do you think about magazines? Are you a high cap fan? Are you a mid cap fan? And if you use mid caps, is this one worth it? Is it worth changing your entire loadout? I use a lot of different mid caps. I mean, I actually have some Elite Force ones I use for most of my events, especially if I'm gonna be doing a lot of changes and can end up maybe losing them. It's a little less painful to lose like an $8 or $9 magazine versus losing a near $30 magazine. But is it worth having these great features? I love it. I mean, it's a big jump in price, but to do a whole full loadout change, I think you're gonna see me grabbing about 3 or 4 of these to use for my local skirmishes. But I wanna know what you think. Enough about me. Let us know in the comment section below. Are you a high cap fan? Are you a mid cap fan? Or you just run the box mag and decimate everybody? And that's it for this episode of the Gear Guide. I'll be back in the next episode where I show you the new banana magazine that's actually made 100% of recycled banana peels. Yeah, it's fully biodegradable.